Welcome to the program. Assalamu alaikum. Today I am speaking to Dr. Hussainmiya. Dr. Hussainmiya is a professor of history. He was born in Colombo, went to University of Peradeniya, and then also went to Australia for his Ph.D. After completing his Ph.D, he went to Brunei and worked as a professor of history for quite some time. Recently, he has settled back in Sri Lanka, and he is also a community advocate. Let's go and find out from Dr. Hussainmiya. Dr. Hussainmiya, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Very nice to be a participant in your program.
Yeah, okay, let's start the program. Now, tell me about yourself. You were born in Colombo and grew up in Colombo as well. Tell me about your childhood.
Well, I was born in this place called Maligavatta. It produced some good people who have made contributions to the society. There was one guy, my uncle, S.B. Halaluddin, Qasim, the current journalist M.C. Rasuddin. All these people are coming from Maligavatta. Also, Mr. H.M. Fauzi, a long-time minister in the previous governments, H.M. Fauzi, was also from my area.
Right. I also understand that you are a Sri Lankan Malay.
I am. But when you say Sri Lankan Malay, it's a problematic area. I have done work on it. As you know from my name, you have seen me as my B.Ed. Hussainmiya. Actually, from my mother's side, maternal side, I am pure Malay. My mother, grandmother, her father was Pakon, and my grandmother was one Kunchir. My mother is Devi Nona. But my father is not a Malay in the sense, those days there was a lot of intermarriages among the Malays and the Moors or people called Bengalis. Not that they came from Bengal. These are the South Indian type of people. But however, in my birth certificate, it is entered I am a Ceylon Malay. So to that extent Malay. But my identity, I grew up as a Malay because I was brought up by my grandmother, a Malay, and we spoke Malay at home. And also, in my own area, I am known as Java Korean, the Malay boy. In fact, I wrote my story in one of those books which was published in America. 15 intellectuals of our period have to write their young day stories up to about 12 years. And my story was, and my title was, The Java Korean of Maligavatta. So, you can understand that my self-identity, my social identity is largely as a Malay. Not that I'm very proud of being a Malay. I have been very often being insulted why I am claiming to be Malay. I'll tell you an interesting example. You just asked me about my name, Hussainmiya. Hussainmiya is definitely not a typical Malay name. It's an Indian or Bengali name. So once there was an article about me that Professor B.Ed. Hussainmiya was going to write a history of the Brunei. And one Malay gentleman, I will call pure Malay gentleman, was very bit jealous about it. And he wrote a nasty item to the Daily News saying that Mr. Hussainmiya is not a Malay. And the tigers cannot change their spot. He must be either from Bengali or Indian, Bachamiya. So why should he claim as a Malay? So I saw this article while I was a visiting professor in Japan. Immediately I responded, yes, although I am called Bachamiya Hussainmiya, of course, in Bengal, Hussainmiyas are landlord. Whereas in Afghanistan, they are warlords. Sometimes when I go to Japan, people ask me, oh, are you Japanese? Because Japanese, this Miya is very famous, son of Miya. Mr. Ashraf, former leader used to say, Machan, political leader ஆக்குறது நீ சோனவன் இல்லை நீ ஜாவனே ஆண்டுவா ஜாவன கிட்ட போட அவன் சொன்னா நீ ஜாவன் இல்லடா நீ சோனவன் என்றா. So I'm a half caste. Let me put that.
Okay. There is a lot of history already there. Okay, let's talk about your school years. You went to Zahra College?
No, my first school was Denham English School. That's a very small school in Maligavatta. The year I entered, that's I think 1951, the school had English medium only. English medium. So, but although it's an English medium school, Maligavatta boys are not very motivated. So, they did not complete the education. And the school At that time, only available only JS means Form 3, we call Junior School Certificate. That's how you, until that study. But year I entered, for some reason, the school medium had changed into Tamil medium. So I entered Denham English school in a Tamil medium area. After the school, at the standard 3, I was double promoted, meaning my teachers found I'm a bit smart, so they gave me a double promotion and made me into the year 5 straight away. Not only me, there were other 4 students in my school who got double promotion. At the standard 5, I was asked to sit for this 5th standard competitive scholarship examination, which is even now, it's a big thing. In that exam too, although I got double promoted, I cut standard 4, I become a government 5th standard government scholar. When you become 5th standard government scholar, you cannot stay in your school. You will have to join one of the central colleges. This is under the famous Kanangara scheme. So I had to go to a central college. Of course, being intelligent, I'm supposed to be at that time, I should have gone to a better central college, such as, because it was Tamil medium, I should have gone to one of those Jaffna central colleges, like Karavetti Central College or Jaffna Central College, where there is good education with science medium and top class science laboratories. But unfortunately, my family could not afford to send me to Jaffna because we didn't have that much of money to put me into a boarding school. So the closest central college was near Maligavatta in Maradana. It's called Maradana Central College. So I went to that school, which did not have a proper medium, Tamil medium. It has a Sinhala medium and Tamil medium, but we didn't have a proper teacher to teach science, etc. So it was a bit of waste. 5th standard government scholar sent with such kind of background to study. Anyway, when I went to Maradana Central College, which is now known as Sri Sangaraja Mahavidyalaya, I studied up to my advanced level. And the school, there was one Tamil teacher called Mrs. Subramaniam. She was a little cranky woman and she could not teach properly. So therefore I didn't want to join science, although I was very interested in science. So I chose myself to do arts. Arts means I was studying history. In fact, it's very interesting when you come to know later. I was very good in history at that stage. So much so, at the Form 3 level, I have scored 100 marks. Nobody would score 100 marks in history. The teacher used to say. Anyway, that's one point. So I chose history because in the Maradana Central Colleges, there were choices given to these government scholars. You can become either study history or in place you can study music, Carnatic music. There was a nice, famous Carnatic musician in my school. I didn't choose music. I think I used to joke, instead of becoming a professor of history, had I chosen music as my subject, I think A.R. Rahman would not have been there. I would have been one of the A.R. Rahman with my ability to study.
Okay.
So,
okay, just to give some perspective to all these stories, sorry. You were born in 1946, right?
Correct.
So 46, yeah. So that means we are talking about 1950s.
Yes, correct.
Yes, go ahead.
So
then what happened after?
So Maradana Central College, when I went there, I excelled well in my classes. I was, basically I'm number 1 in the classes. And I used to teach while I was a student there, when I was a junior, senior level. Sometimes I take classes for the other students, which is in a large hall. We Tamil medium people were put there. So my teacher, Mrs. Viswalingam, used to see me from a distance. One day I wore a small jacket. It was a cold day. I found some jacket and wore it, and I was teaching class. He said, Hussainmiya, one day you are going to be a professor. I can see signs in you. I used to laugh about it, and that's okay. And I was participating in a lot of events in the school, especially literary societies. I used to be a debater and a talker, a big talker. So much so, I participated, even when I was 12 years old, in an oratorical contest in the school. There was one day, Mr. Iriagolla was an education minister. There was a day called Labor Day. Labor Day, celebrated with an oratorical contest about the dignity of labor. So I participated in the Tamil medium, there was Sinhala medium. So in my speech, I was able to give a speech And although I was young, I beat all the other Tamil speakers and became number one, and I got the silver cup for that. So Mr. Iregola was very impressed, and he told the principal, Mr. Velikalla, that day, have a look at this guy, is one day going to be somebody. So Mr. Velikanna, the principal, during his felicitation speech, he told, this man is called Hussainmiya. Miya in Sinhala is rat, the small rat. He's not a rat, he's a balalaya. Balalaya means he's a Gaduvan Pune, the big cat. So my grandmother was seated there, was very, very proud to hear these sentences from them. So that was my school life. Anyway, from that school, I did A-level, but there's no teacher at that, no classes, but I mostly self-taught myself. I prepared myself for this university entrance exam, and in that school, that was I was the only student to enter from that school to go to university, P.Ed, in the arts medium. And that was the first and last time a Tamil medium student entered from Maradana Central College to P.Ed University. After that, the Tamil medium was closed. It was transferred to a school in front of it called Al-Hidayah Mahavidyalaya. So my school at the moment, Sangaraja Mahavidyalaya, still remains a Sinhalese Mahavidyalaya. So that is so far as my school career is concerned. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay,
yes. just continue.
Yes, this was an oratorical contest organized in commemoration with the Labor Day. The topic was dignity of labor. And I had to participate in the Tamil medium. There were Sinhala medium speakers as well. It is in a large hall, school hall, where Mr. Iregola, that time the very famous education minister, was there as a chief guest. And in the contest, I was very young. I was the youngest, about 12 years, I think, 12 or 13 years, as soon as I entered the school. So I gave my speech, and for some or other, I was selected as the first speaker, number one speaker, and I was given the silver cup for that. And Mr. Iregola was very impressed. This young man could speak so well, although he would not have understood Tamil, and he found I was deserving to win that, and he told the principal to take care of me. Anyway, the principal, in his felicitation speech, he was telling a very interesting story. He was playing on my name, Hussainmiya. In Sinhala, Hussainmiya means a small rat, the munjur. So he said, he's not Hussainmiya, he's not a rat, he's a balalaya. He's Hussainmiya, cat. You know, the barking cat. So he made and there was a big laugh in the school when he said it. It's not a rat, it's a cat, because he could speak so powerfully. So anyway, my grandmother was in the audience. That time my parents were in Trincomalee. She's the one who takes me to school. Then she was very proud about me at that time. So that was the event. Anyway, what happened was, from that school, I sat my A-level university entrance exam those days. Though there was no formal class there was no teacher, except there was one teacher. But I really self-taught myself in all instances. And I entered university entrance from Maradana Central College in the Tamil medium. And that was the first and last time a Tamil medium student ever entered university. After that, that medium was closed down. It became a Sinhala medium school. And the Tamil medium was transferred to the next door. It's called Al-Hidayah Muslim Mahavidyalaya. So after that, what I did was, but the results haven't come yet, I joined Colombo Zaira College. Because I was from Maligavatta, I want to join upper elite school. So I went to a school, Maradana Central was known as a blackboard jungle those days. It's not a very good school, all these ruffian children, the poor people, scavenger type, the one who go to that school. Whereas Zaira College, whatever said, had a rugger team, and there was a cricket team. And I, being a Maligavatta boy, wanted to be in that elite group, you see. So I joined Zaira College for that brief period. That's about 9 months. By the time the university entrance results came, I joined the university. So that was my 3 school career. Then I'm in school at Maligavatta, Maradana Central College, Colombo, and then Zahra College in Zahra.
Okay, now you went to university in 1964, is that right?
Correct. That's right.
Tell me about your campus life.
Yeah, I wish to tell you, the university entrance examinations, island-wide examination, I became number one in the Tamil medium in the country, right? The English medium was Mr. G.L. Peris, the current Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka. So, very interestingly, we were interviewed for a scholarship outside the Nicholas Hartiger's room. He was on the right side, I was on the left side, because this is to honor the best scholars. So, when I was seated outside, Mr. G.L. Peris, I still remember, he looked at me and he said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Mr. Hussainmiya. And what are you doing?" "Well, I'm invited." So he naturally interest, this guy, young guy, asked me out of interest, "What course would you like to do?" I said, no, I want to do arts course. "Oh my God, you are such a bright student. You are number one in the country next to me. Why don't you do law?" I said, "I'm very sorry, my English is not good. Those days we call English kaduva, the sword. My kaduva is not good." He said, "Don't worry."
Yes.
He said, "Yeah, I will take under my wing. I will help you to learn your English and the law." Something he told me. So anyway, I laughed and said, "Okay, I will follow my own course." And in the Kelaniya, that exhibition prize, Mr. G.L. Peris got the first prize and I got the second prize. And I joined the arts stream. I did 3 subjects, namely history, economics, and Tamil. That was a GAQ. In the second year, I chose education, bachelor education. The Bachelor of Education course was first time inaugurated, and that required 3 Bs. You mean you had to do well in all the 3 general arts qualifying subjects, which I did. So I thought, oh, this is a great thing happening to me. So I joined the Bachelor of Education course instead of history course. Since I joined Bachelor of Education, that 4 years, that was only suitable to make me a teacher. So at that time, the Sri Lanka was undergoing some difficulties and finding jobs is very difficult. I thought by doing Bachelor of Education, which is a Bachelor of Arts degree plus a diploma in education, we are sure to get a teacher's job at least. So that little bit of bad taste in my thing, I did not pursue my main interest, which I still regret. But anyway, I took another turn. After Bachelor of Education degree, I was given an opportunity to another degree in the same university. So the university rules changed. They said, if a person gets a first class or upper second in the degree, you can do another degree, honors degree, for which you don't need 4 years requirement. There may be 2-year requirement because you already got a upper second. So I did history again. And I got another second class upper division on that.
Right.
So I became a double degree holder. So, and then I was recruited as an assistant lecturer in the Kelaniya University. At that time only, I saw an advertisement in our senior common room board where lecturers meet. Monash University has sent some circulars asking people from the third world countries, they can apply for scholarship in their first fields of study. So at that time, I applied to do history in Monash for my higher degree. So I wrote a small aerogram by chance. And that aerogram in which I said, I'm a Sri Lankan Malay, and I have done this, and I am interested in history. Can you give me an offer of a scholarship to do history? That letter went to the professor and the chair of the history in Monash University at Clayton. His name is Professor Ali McBride. He has seen this, and he found very interesting that I am a Sri Lankan Malay. Again, I mentioned that. He has passed it on to a newly established department called Indonesian Malay Studies Department, which was in Monash University. That professor was called Cyril Spoon, a very, very renowned scholar. He has seen this letter, and he asked me that I understand that you have applied for to study history scholarship at our university. Would you consider to do Malay studies or Indonesian studies, for which I may be able to give a scholarship? You know, Sri Lankan beggars are not choosers, you know. Somebody is giving you a scholarship, I take it. I said, no problem. I would love to do that. And the topic he wanted me, he knew from my CV that I did my Tamil medium. And also I'm a Malay. He thought he should encourage me to do a research on the influence of Tamil from Tamil Nadu into Malay studies, Malay literature. The whole Malay literature has a lot of Tamil in it. So he thought I will pursue that interest. So that
Yes.
Professor also had the same interest. So that is how I got a scholarship to go to Monash University, which was the what you call life-changing event in my life. That really changed me. And then I joined Monash University in 1974 under Indonesian and Malay Studies Department.
Yes.
That was the greatest event that happened. Today, if I were to be in this position, that the scholarship that made it for me.
Let's talk about some of the people who have influenced you back in Sri Lanka as well as in Monash.
Yeah. In fact, this is one thing I should say, that as a young man, I lived with my grandmother because my father was a Crown Sergeant at the Royal Naval Police. He was transferred to Trincomalee with my mother also went and lived with him in Trincomalee. And my grandmother did not allow me to go back with my parents because I was studying, as I've already explained to you, I was a good student in the Denham English School at Maligavatta. She thought that I will not be able to do well if I go and join Trincomalee. She didn't know. So that's why I continued. So that gamble played off. So she is one woman in my life. She was such a devoted woman. She was a widow. She had 7 other children to look after in my house, my auntie. But she loved me a lot. She never made me to feel poverty, although we were poor people at all. For example, I'll give you one example. I was a very forgetful guy, even as a young child. I used to lose my pilot pen. Those days, 4 rupees and 50 cents a pilot pen, a fountain pen. Every week I lose one and she will fill it up. That kind of lady. In other words, she would buy me everything which is needed for my studies. So still I cannot forget. Her name is Nena India. Yeah. She had 2 children, 2 boys, Mr. SBC Halaldin and SBC Pasik. They were my uncles, my mother's brothers. They were great guys. They were also very poor, but they came up hard in life, hard way. Mr. Halaldin later became a labor officer and became a Ceylon Administrative Service officer. He was a general manager at the Ceylon Engineering Corporation, and also he became a lawyer for a brief period. And he was one of the presidents of the Oslo IMMA conference. And his brother, Sayyidin BC Tasim, also a very big influence in my life. He is the one who first gave me an English book when I was a child. I still remember that. And he was living in our house. And he was a mercantile. He did not study very much, just O-level. But later, believe it or not, this guy established Maligavatta YMMA, National Council of YMMA, in which became a president. He's one of the very leading social worker. And he has done help for a lot of people. Mind you, this guy who don't even finish this O-level became the vice president of Saudi American Bank in Saudi Arabia. So this is the type of quality people coming from the lower ranks of life, like in Maligavatta, have risen to this path. And I am also destined in their tail to rise. Actually, people who mingled with me young days were not great guys. They were sort of ganja smokers, druggists. And many of my colleagues have ended up in reformatory school. But God smiled at me. Because of my native intelligence and the support given to me for education by my poor relatives, including my grandmother, I was able to be a good student. But I need to tell you one thing. This is very relevant. When I was very young, 10, 12 years, I don't go and play most of the time with my so-called, boys of that area. I go to a place called Reading Room in Maligavatta. During that time, Colombo Municipal Council had reading rooms in various suburbs. And in Maligavatta, we had a reading room which they take all the English journals like Psychology, Illustrated Weekly of India, and also the Tamil periodicals like Kumudam, Ananda Vigadam, and you get all the Sri Lankan newspapers there, Daily Mirror, Daily News, Observer, etc. So what I do is, at about 2 o'clock after my school, I had the habit of going to the reading room, and I spend my time to read, nothing but read. Of course, at 4 o'clock, I'll come back and play with my students also. So this is one character I think it came into me. it was solely because of my devotion to read that I was able to build up myself. Secondly, during my Denham English School days, I used to get a lot of book prizes. You know, book prizes. When you are number one in the class, and if you are very good with your arithmetic or history, they give you a book prize. I used to give a lot of these book prizes like Tirukkural, the Tamil literature works. I used to read out of interest. So basically, my life is all about reading and the readership. Even now, when I go to motivation school, I tell them, you can study anything, but if you don't read, you will not improve. The reading makes you a man. Your grammar improves, your understanding improves, your comprehension improves, etc., etc. So, reading is the one made it, and even today, I spend a lot of time on reading.
When I give motivation to the school children, I say that not only reading, but also writing. To me, writing equals thinking. If you do not write anything, it's gone. In other words, you really have to write to kind of conceptualize your thinking.
See, very important, the comprehension part. Lot of our students fail because they don't comprehend what the teachers teach, even what the school text is. But if you make the basic comprehension, understanding, you have cleared hurdles for your education.
Yeah, sure. Now let's go back to Australia. So I went to Australia in 1991, but you went to Australia about even 16, 17 years earlier. So what was life like? What was life like in Monash those days? And tell me about the campus life, the friends you made, and the connection you created.
By the time I went to Monash, I think this Monash was just emerging. It was not an old university. I think they started somewhere in late 60s, and it was young university. And that young university have recruited super class professors from other parts, particularly Singapore and Malaysia. And my professor Cyril Skinner had been in teaching Singapore. He was the head of the Department of Malay Studies. And there were other lecturers like N.G. Michael Smith and other people. They were all recruited by Monash University. And there, I told you I entered the Indonesian Malay Studies Department of the Skill Care. There was a body called Center for Southeast Asian Studies. The Center for Southeast Asian Studies consisted of all the people from the area, from music department, from sociology department, from anthropology department, economics department, who was specializing in studies related to Southeast Asia. So I used to see Burmese student, Thailand student, mostly Malaysian student, Singapore students, and I from Sri Lanka. And we had the best time of inter-exchanging seminars and ideas. And we quite learned a lot. And that Center for Southeast Asian Studies emerged to be one of the top research institutions within Australia. And they used to teach languages, especially Indonesian, Malay, Korean, Japanese, Arabic, etc. So I interacted with quite a number of young scholars who had come on scholarship. And those people became my biggest network. So I have friends from Burma, I have friends from Thailand, I have mostly from Malaysia. They are the one who later, in my later life, helped me to find opportunities. Not only that, these guys who studied in Southeast Asian Studies became professors, heads of departments, vice chancellors, whatnot, some even education ministers. And they have done very well in their life. So I'm very proud that I lived in a milieu or the period in which the Southeast Asian Studies was thriving, and I was part and parcel of the greatest movement for knowledge creation and knowledge distribution. So I'm grateful. And one good thing about Monash University at that time, we had very close relationship with our staff, lecturers. They were very personally guiding us. And the university did not have many buildings like nowadays. Even next to Monash, there was a huge building area in Dandenong which had an open air theatre, meaning that you can see a film from outside theatre, and although you don't have that earphones, I used to enjoy films. In other words, the Clayton area had a very wide area. Hardly even there were only several flats, and you get a lot of land there. But when I visited Clayton, 1995, my gosh, you can't get a single piece of land there. That place where I used to enjoy, next to Monash,
Exactly.
next to Blackburn Road, is now full of buildings. So in other words, what I'm saying is 1970 was a period in which it's a fresh, open air study area.
Yes.
And next to Monash, there was a huge grounds in which I used to lay down with my, not girlfriends, the friends of your colleagues. We roll around in those, what you call, grass. Now I don't see a single piece of grass there. Again, those areas have been taken by buildings. Furthermore, today, Monash University, I'm sure, is one of the universities. It has built a name. Australia wanted to become a leader of the area. Like they want to have very good relations with Indonesia and the Arab world. So they wanted to produce scholarship to be a leader in that area. That's how Australia was. So I enjoyed the Australian greatness of that period by entering myself to do this Ph.D. studies with the Indonesia Studies Department. And during that period, I also wish my career changed in the sense, my Professor Skinner sent me to Sri Lanka back to do field research. You know how it happened? When I went to the department, I showed a small microphone, which was a microfilm of a Sri Lanka Malay newspaper called Alamat Lankapuri, which was given to me by the late librarian S.M. Kamaldi. So I showed it to the Professor Skinner. He was thrilled. How come Sri Lanka produced the Malay newspaper? So he thought, instead of my original research on the Tamil influences Malay literature, let me study something about Malays in Sri Lanka. So that's how I came for my field work to Sri Lanka. When I came, something happened. That time, we were proposing my sister for a marriage, and we found a Malay young man called Saleh. So he came home one day, and we were discussing. Then I said, he asked me, what am I doing? I said, yes, this is what happened. I came to Sri Lanka to do some work on Malay. He said, oh my God, if that is so, I will take you to my auntie, who is in Katikale, Kandy, Mrs. Saripodi. I have come across some kitab mean manuscript work. Why not we go and try? God, when I went there, I saw stars, meaning I hit the ceiling. They are all very valuable Malay manuscripts, meaning they are written in Javi language or Arabic language, which is we call Javi. Sri Lankan Malays call them Gundul. So I found many of these Malay Gundul kitabs in that house. Then I met another gentleman, Mr. Veerabangsa, who came to see his relation. He said, you come to Trincomalee, in my house, I also have similar text. So I went there. It was the greatest discovery I made. I made more than 150 of the manuscript, which included not only Malay manuscript, Arabic Tamil, and Urdu manuscripts. And I listed out all of them. I sent the entire list to my Professor Skinner. He said, this is the greatest discovery of the century. Meaning, how come Malay literature thrived in a country, Sri Lanka, which is not a Malay? The Malay literature, it should thrive in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. Whereas in Sri Lanka, he found his manuscripts are there. And that triggered my whole research. And furthermore, I discovered, although Malaysia and Singapore and Indonesia were the Malay countries, it was in Sri Lanka they published the first Malay newspaper. I discovered it in archives with this called Alamat Lankapuri. And there was another newspaper called Wajah Ceylon. These were all work done by the minority Sri Lankan Malays. You know, Sri Lankan Malays, after all, very small minority. 0.3% of the population. Today, they are only 40,000. And they are part of the Muslim population. Imagine the small population of Malays was able to be highly literate. Mind you, these Malays were mostly soldiers during the British period. They were in the regiment. How do you expect soldiers, ordinary soldiers, to be literate people? In fact, when British recruited their soldiers, they were all illiterate guys who were coming from what you call this mine area. Whereas in Sri Lanka, the Malays were very highly literate for some reason, the soldiers. So they were engaged in producing literature, writing literature, copying literature, contacting other literature. This is all happening in the 19th century. So I really made it a thesis, and I wrote a book of that. I will show you that. This is the book.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that?
Okay.
Oran Regiment, the Malay
Yeah,
Service
yeah.
Rifle Regiment, in which
So-
I have delineated, explained why this Malay community was very successful in literature. So this is what earned my thesis, my Ph.D. My Ph.D. thesis turned into a book by the Malaysian National University. So I'm very happy about it. Not only this book, I wrote another book called
Right.
Lost Cousins. Lost Cousins being how the Malays got lost from Indonesia and Malaysia. And that book became another best reader and seller, I will call it. Even the Malaysian ministers even today cite that book.
Oh.
And they call me in Malaysia Lost Cousin because of that. So that is insofar as
Okay.
Malay research is going on. So in other words, my entrance to Monash enriched not only my knowledge, but enriched the knowledge about the Malay community in the world, the diasporic community. Meaning, that really gave a new dimension to the study of Malay literature, which is even today followed very avidly in the country. My name is highly mentioned. If you Google my name, you will see there are more than 10,000 gigs, mostly because of my research on Malay. I used to attend many meetings and gatherings and conferences invited to talk about Malay literature, etc. In this context, I also wish to tell you, when I went to Malaysia, 1982, this is after my studies, I took a Malay manuscript to Malaysia to attend what we call the first World Malay Conference, where a lot of Malays from the world, like Suriname and Indonesia and all attended. That conference was, chief guest was Tan Sri Mahathir Mohamad, who just became a prime minister. That's about, 1982, he became a prime minister. So during that, I got an opportunity to go and meet, to hand over this manuscript to Mahathir as a gift from Sri Lanka. When I handed over the gift, the entire media of Malaysia filmed it and put it in the headlines. Sri Lankan Malay gentleman handing over the manuscript. So that really hit the headlines. Right? And by the same token, in 3 years' time, Mahathir, after that is the first Malay World Conference, I was able to hold the second World Malay Conference in Sri Lanka. How much we progressed. That Malay Conference was attended by more than 100 delegates from Malaysia and Indonesia and Brunei. And who chaired it? The former President J.R. Jayawardena. That is what he called Symposium Dunia Melayu II. And I became the chairman with the Gapena chairman. And it was another big eye-opener to the whole Malay world. In other words, imagine the first Malay World Conference in the original Malaya, the second Malay World Conference in Sri Lanka, which was part of my accomplishment, I'll call it. I would like to show you
contribution.
A photograph. This is it. Can you see?
Okay.
So this is where JR was there. I was giving the chairman's address. So this is part of my life and career and how much the research has led us. So in other words, through my concern today, Sri Lanka is considered the extension of the Malay world. We call Dunia Melayu. Those days, the Malay world was consisted of Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, or Thailand, or Philippines. It doesn't go beyond that. Now they have extended that boundary to Sri Lanka because of my researches. So today, Sri Lanka is also part of the Malay world. When we call it Malay world, we are all included, we are invited. So that is a demographical and geographical and strategic change I have made into the world geography and world studies. Sorry, I'm not boasting too much, but that is a fact.
No, that's okay. Let's talk about something. Now, your field being history. Tell me why history is important.
Well, history is important everything. Because if you are born as a human being, you always come with a history. You are not only living in the present, sir, you are not going to be in the future. There was a past for you. And sometimes this past determines your present, past determines your future. And in the case of nations, countries, this is more important. There are memories lost in the period that has to be revived. And you should know to what civilization you have inherited, your abilities, and what kind of accomplishments, achievements your ancestors made. Where does your akal or the brain come from? All this is part of history. And the history is buried under the ground in the form of archaeology. History has been thrown out in various artifacts like coins, inscriptions, and also history, in some part of history, has been written down in the form of documents, like government documents, which are kept in archives. And when you read all this, you reconstruct a scenario. That scenario may not be the 100% true story. Scenario. History is, they say history is written by winners. The four winners by the winners. So, but that is a different argument. But in either case, history is quite important to understand your past, how it has molded your ancestry, how you have come to this stage, what have you lost, what did you lose. For example, take Sri Lanka. Our history is very rich. We had a very rich history of civilization. Sri Lanka, although it was a small island, was the one which have promoted thing called hydraulic civilization. Meaning that hydraulic civilization means they discovered the art of what you call digging tanks and connecting them with various canals in order to irrigate paddy lands. Sri Lanka, for example, this Bachamiya Abdul, the great king, once told me, I am not going to let a single drop of rainwater to go into the sea. And he conserved that water through river and made a biggest Parakram Samudra. Today, it's one of the greatest marvel of the world, Sri Lanka, as a hydraulic civilization. Similarly, Sumerian civilization, famous for its writings and culture. And so Western Arab civilization, of all the things, the amount of libraries they had, the science they developed, chemistry, medicine, etc. The Arabs were the greatest inventors of lot of equipment, medical equipment. So in other words, if you study history, every society has contributed in some form or other. That is why history comes in. Now, to conclude that talk, see, I went and studied history and I dug up the history of the Sri Lankan Malays. Today, I told you, Sri Lankan Malays is part of the world history now. So that is how history is important.
Okay. Okay, tell me, so something like this one, like, life story is partly history as well, but story too. So what is the importance of preserving some interesting memories like our conversations?
In fact, I'm very happy that you have taken this initiative. In fact, when I asked you in the morning who are going to be viewers, you said, no, not today. It will be the future, say, for example, 2050. You hit the nail, right. But I am also like you. I believe in preserving the memories of people, what they did it, how they did it. We had such great leaders in Sri Lanka like Sir Razik Farid, Dr. Badiuddin Mahmud, Dr. M.C.M. Kaleel, A.C.S. Hamid. I wish each one of them have left their memoirs. Leaving memoirs or reading their life story, either by oneself or making the second person to read, is an enrichment of part of the human lives and human history. Every human has its own experience. And every experience, enriches. Yes. Enriches the nation, enriches the state, enriches the human experience. I believe in it. So therefore, when you say that, say, today I'm telling you these things, one day they are going to find there was the Hussainmiya somewhere. What did he do? And what was his role in that period? So if I can leave my memoirs, and more importantly, a person like you dig into my life and going to preserve in, say, electronic or digital form, I'm sure one day it's going to be of some great use to some people. I'll tell you one good thing. Now, there is an organization in America. They bury all these birth certificates in our countries in microfilms. I used to wonder why they are microfilming the birth certificates of Sri Lanka. It is in Uta. Uta, deep under, they have bunkers and they are hiding or burying all these birth certificates. You know why? Do you know why? Because they think one day the universe is going to be destroyed by this nuclear war. Once you go, they won't know what humanity, where it existed.
Okay.
And then that is why they are taking precaution even today, at least the birth certificates, to be taken. So one day when all this world is come back, somebody is going to fight it. So this is a very crude example I'm giving you. That is example for the people.
Yes.
I'm really thrilled. At the moment I'm doing some work of a member of a Malay gentleman who wrote his memoirs in 1924. He says how he conducted his life in the Sri Lankan tea estates. In fact, now I'm writing an article on Sri Lankan tea estates, Malay role, and that diary is going to help me a hell of a lot, more than anything else, his own memoirs. You see how things can turn out. So that is why the keeping memoirs, keeping memories of individuals, memories of states is very, very critically important. And I'm really, conveying my felicitation to you. You are not a historian, I understand, but you came up with this idea. And you are trying to, at least minimum as a contribution, trying to enlist some of the names, good or well-known names or lesser-known names like us, seeking after me to ask me to come up to whatever life I had. I'm very grateful to you compared to the great guns, Muslim leaders who have been there. But nevertheless, I think I have a story to tell others. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I'm only talking about Malays all the time. Now, I would like to go further. That I went beyond the Malays and did something else, not in Sri Lanka. My research extended back into Brunei, in Malaysia, in some other areas, which I can talk about it a bit later after I'm telling you about my career. Now, what happened was, after my Malay conference, I've been very much in demand in Malaysia, and they offered me to become as a visiting fellow or professor at the institute called Institute Kebangsaan, Institute Sastra dan Kesastran in the National University of Malaysia. Those days it's called IDKKM, Language, Literature and Culture Institute, where I was invited to further my interest in research and writing. So that was from 1985 to 87. After 88, I found a job. No, I was invited for a job at the newly established Brunei University. Brunei, of course, you know, it's a younger sultanate. In 1985, they established the first university. And in 1988, I joined Brunei University as a lecturer. And from 1988 until 2016, I was serving almost 28 years. There something interesting happened. When I was a lecturer, there was this education minister, and this cabinet was summoned by the Sultan of Brunei, Haji Hassan al-Bolkiah, to counter a book written against the royalty. There was a rebellion in Brunei in 1962. The rebel leaders escaped from Brunei, and they lived in other countries like Hong Kong and Malaysia and Singapore. And one guy wrote a book of history of Brunei nationalism. Of course, it's not a bad book. He did it for a master's degree. His name called Zain. He was the general secretary of the liberation movement of Brunei, called Brunei Labour Party in the 1960s, in which he made some veiled criticism towards monarchy and the upper class, high class. So Sultan was a bit upset about it, and he asked my university, some professors, whether they can find out to prove or disprove these things. So my minister, at that time, the education minister was the vice chancellor, he has to ask some people to write this book. One of them is Dr. Amir Ali, who's in America. At Australia at the moment. Amir Ali, it's a famous Amir Ali.
Yes.
And he was asked, but Amir Ali,
Yeah.
a very, very strict man, he wanted a lot of conditions, writing about monarchy. So it was given up. There were other people, they did not write. They wanted to appoint a committee. So when this particular minister saw my book, Regiment, he summoned me one day and he asked me, Dr. Hussainmiya called me, Doctor, I heard that you are a writer. You have written history about your community. Would you be interested to write a book about this particular issue I'm praising, about this, a rejoinder to this book? You know, that was the biggest opportunity in my life. I jumped at it. I said, no problem. Sir, I will do it. And mind you, at that stage, I don't know anything about Brunei. I don't know anything about Brunei history. My whole historical knowledge is about Sri Lanka. That too is an ancient history. I, like a angel that fears to treat, like a fool, rushed into that, and I accepted it. And mind you, that one gave me a big opening. You see, that book ended up in a greatest writing on Brunei history itself. I wrote, that book led to the life story, I told biography of the Sultan who founded Brunei. That is the father of the current Sultan, Aslam Bolkiah. His name is Omar Ali Saifuddin. He is the founder of Brunei. During that period, his period, only the rebellion took place. And when I tried to study rebellion, that led me into this man, and I started digging into his life from young days. And that became a first-class political biography. And for that, I had support from the government, Sultan. They sent me all over the world. I went to the Public Record Office in London. I went to the Public Record Office in America, American National Archives. I went to Hong Kong. I went to India. I went to Philippines, etc. And I collected a huge amount of documentation. And I wrote a book on that. I can show you this book. I can show you the book. This is a book. This was published by the Oxford University Press. More than 400 pages. Which is today is the real foundation book for Brunei. Now today, I have become the Parnavitana of Professor Kingsford Silva of Brunei. Modern history. So my book is the history. So I am known as the biggest historian of Brunei. Everybody has to refer to me. And not only that book, I investigated the Brunei, why Brunei, being a small country, emerged as one of the great powers in the region. So this is that book. Can you see this? So this is about the founding of Brunei before Amar Ali Saifuddin. This book really is a book read by all the diplomats and the bank managers. You know why? To understand the thinking of Bruneians, how they are very clever in postponing things, how they things. So this everybody recommended to find the book and understand. There's the last chapter I said, the summing up. I really hit the nail on the Bruneian psyche, Bruneian experience. So that is insofar as my other history goes. So I'm not only historian of Malay, I'm also historian of Brunei.
Exactly. Okay, now let's talk about some of your social engagement activities, your contributions to society and all that. It goes back to, in your CV, I have seen that from YMMA those days. So tell me a bit about those experiences.
Now that what I described to you is like a born-again Christian or born-again academic. Meaning, when I came back from Australia, following my Ph.D., I gave up virtually all interest in writing. Straight away I took up position as the National Council of Young Men's Muslim Association of Sri Lanka. This happened in 1981. I returned to Sri Lanka in 1978. But before that, when I was young, I used to be a general secretary of the Junior Young Men Muslim Association. As I told you, I had two uncles. They were all involvement in the YMMA, along with Mr. Lamid Qasim and Amy Aziz. I was, as a young man, I used to be involved in their work, and I became the secretary of the younger group. But in 1981, I took over the chairmanship of the National Council of YMMAs. From there, for 3-4 years, I was 100% devoted to social work. Okay, I'll tell you one example. During that period, I was able to raise funds and help more than 200 scholars to study in universities. I was very closely connected to Libyan government. I was in the central committee of one political movement belonging to Colonel Gaddafi. I sat with him. I was one of the 8 world representatives. And I got a lot of funding. With that, I could do quite a lot of things. I put up a building in Maligavat, National Council by my building. I could complete it, and I was able to do lot and service to people. And some of the people whom I helped those days, when they come even now, they catch my hand and gratefully thank me. Among them are the doctors, ambassadors, I don't want to name them, they are, and various other engineers who have come to see me, some ministers who have come to see me as a president at the YMMA and obtain my support to find them scholarships to study, because they were poor in that sense, they can't find money. So this is one of the areas. At the same time, I also, with the Libyan support, I established a new organization called Federation of Muslim Youth of Sri Lanka. And that was patronized and funded by a Libyan ambassador at that time called Ali Shorigi. You know who was Ali Shorigi? He is the man who funded and raised up Mr. Anwar Ibrahim, former Deputy Minister of Malaysia. He started this movement called Angkatan Belia Islamic Muda, ABI.
Yes.
And the same man handpicked me. He thought I will be the Anwar Ibrahim of Sri Lanka, be a top politician, and emerge as a supporter for Middle East. And he supported me with this organization called FAMIS, Federation of Muslim Youth of Sri Lanka, in which I gathered many Muslim organizations. That was in 84. And my whole devotion went to FAMIS. FAMIS. But by the time 85 come, I had branches all over. And even in the National Council of IMMAs, we had branches, zonal branches. One was in Eastern Province, one was in the Southern Province, one was in the Central Province. Central Province was famous Dr. Maruf. And the Southern Province, my treasurer was former leader of Muslim Congress, M.H.M. Ashraf. M.H.M. Ashraf and me were very good friends from the time he entered law college. And he admired me for the lecture. He himself, M.H.M. Ashraf, wanted to be an academic. He wanted to be a lecturer. When I went as a visiting professor in Malaysia, he was shouting an exclamation with his good friend Zuhair, "Oh, Machan, my friend Hussainmiya is going as a lecturer, man." So that was his way. Anyway, he was my treasurer at the moment in the Eastern Province. And he used to give me a lot of support for my activities in the Eastern Province as a youth leader. So that was my life. And what happened after I formed the Federation of Muslim Youth of Sri Lanka in 85, 86, this offer came from the National University of Malaysia for me to come as an academic. So I gave my lifetime work on the youth movement. Lifetime. Meaning that had I stayed there, maybe I would have turned into be a Muslim minister and become a very corrupted, would have dead by now. So I went as a leader, as an academic, and my Federation of Muslim Youth of Sri Lanka was kindly gave the support which I gathered throughout the years from the Libyan state support money. Everything went to this newly established Sri Lanka Muslim Congress under my very good friend M.H.M. Ashraf. M.H.M. Ashraf, leader, had a great soft corner for me, because he knew my wife very well. They studied together in the law college. M.H.M. Ashraf and my wife, Mrs. Manel Zahra Hussainmiya, was in the same batch, and both of them were first classes in the law college. That is another connection we had with him. So Mr. Ashraf had such a great liking to me. His wife, Ferial Ashraf, even recently she told me, during their lunch and dinner, very often he mentioned Dr. Hussainmiya and my wife Zahra. He had said, when he was a minister, that how nice if Hussainmiya is by the side of me. In other words, he knew that I was a very valuable man. I have been a good advisor and guide. And in one of the meetings, when he was a minister, minister, he has come to Maligaon of YMMA to open event, and I was told that he has mentioned that what Mr. Ashraf think at that time, I have thought 10 years before. What he meant was he was giving a hint about my involvement, ability to innovate, to start pioneering movement, and he followed it.
Yes.
So anyway, I am very grateful to Mr. Ashraf for that sentiment.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he passed away. Had I been in Sri Lanka, I am sure he would have given me a big position. I am sure. But God's will that I become academic. So my name is today treasured, or what you call, can be perpetuated throughout the year in academic circles. Had I been a politician,
Yes.
By now my name would have, I don't know whether I would have had a good name.
Yeah.
Usually when I go to India, they ask, sir, what is your name?
You never know.
What is your good name? I said, I don't have a bad name.
Yeah.
My name is Hussainmiya. But that is a practice. So I'm sure that had I been a politician during that period, joining the Muslim Congress or something, today I won't be in this happy mood talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my career as far as politics is concerned. Anyway, coming back to youth, I did quite a lot for the whole country. I wanted to create a new youth movement, which I did it. Even today, the YMM is running. But after my leaving to Malaysia, it did not go very well. The Federation of Muslim Youth of Sri Lanka itself died a natural death because the president who took over also became a member of parliament and he would not be able to continue his work. So that movement died a death. I don't mind about it. But even now, I am involved in helping people in all matters. I'm also interested to produce another generation of scholars. Already, I have helped several people to get their PhDs. One of my person whom I helped, he has got a PhD in Turkey. One fellow is studying in Malaysia. So I am trying to give me a mentor to them. To Florida International University, very big university in Miami. They're the biggest religious studies department. I'm going there in January as a Fulbright resident scholar. One of our projects is to do study of Prophet Muhammad's stories called Nur Nama. Nur Nama is the Prophet Muhammad stories, which is written in 50 languages, including Malay and Tamil. So they think I can make a big contribution in that university. Third, I'm also currently engaged with Oxford University.
Yes.
We are doing a big underwater archaeology project that starts from Malaysia, Maldives, Sri Lanka. We are going to study how Islam has spread. 14th, 15th century, not through documentation, but trying to study the through archaeological finding, which we have got a big funding, about £500,000 sterling. The leader of this project is Mr. Michael Feener, Professor Michael Feener, one of the best scholars at the moment on Islamic scholar. So why I am mentioning to you all, I have a simultaneous interest to work on it, plus my own interest in my time to work out. And also I told you, I got a lot of manuscripts. Not all of them are published. Some of them are Malay grammar. Tamil work, Arabic Tamil, which is another area. So I need to do some work on these things. By the way, this is one of
it takes time. Academic work never finished.
I went to first Malay World Conference.
Okay.
See, can you see Mahathir Mohamad?
Right.
Yeah, I am with the B.Ed. I just performed Hajj. So they said, when you go to Hajj, you have to grow beard and don't take the beard.
Right.
If you ever take the beard, you go to hell, they told me. But anyway, I don't know what the hell I went. And in the second Malay World Conference, held in Sri Lanka, this is Mr. Riyad Javadin, former president of Sri Lanka.
Yes.
He was officiating.
And that's you.
Yeah, of course. So, there are quite a lot of things to show you. But this may be some highlights of my life, I suppose.
Yes. Okay, mashallah. Very good contributions. She mentioned you are a social worker as well, but there are hundreds of other social workers. So that I think you better continue your work in academia, because academia is very, very, very rare amongst our community. I think you are doing great, mashallah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about multiculturalism and coexistence in Sri Lanka.
Of course, we are living in a multicultural world. We have respect. I always believe in respect. In fact, I myself is married to a Sinhalese lady who became converted. And I live among them. So I am one of the living example of multiculturalism. If you may so say. Recently, I published a book, not me, on a people of Sri Lanka. I don't have the book, I will show you later. I was one of the founder editor of that, where we brought more than 22 communities under that. With the help of the National Integration Ministry last time, Mr. Manoj Ganeshan, supported by UNESCO. So I am in that also. Also, I have quite a lot of university friends who are belonging to all kind of people. They are my good friends. Besides, I promote the multiculturalism in this country. In other ways, I don't know. I can't come to that. I live my life in that mode. I will always say not to have a very narrow, parochial view of your own community. And you should be able to mingle around, particularly in a country like Sri Lanka. They say as Muslims, we are not living in Darul Islam. We are living in Darul Harb, in the state of war. Meaning, as minorities, we have a lot of responsibilities and obligations in this country. We cannot follow the same Sharia life which is followed in, say, Saudi Arabia. We have to make some adjustments of our laws with the local laws, indigenous laws. Not that we need to be Sinhalese or Tamils, but while we retaining our identity, we also should be able to respect the common law of this country and work accordingly. There is a big controversy going on about Islamic law in this country, like Qazi Court and MMDA, Muslim marriage. I don't want to make much of a comment about it, but these were given to us as gift during the British period. The British wanted to have a administrative easiness in this country, so they divided these people into various groups and they allowed them to continue with their own laws. So that was one of the concessions we had even from India. We call Muslim Marriage Act, Muslim Marriage Laws, etc. Right now, because of the nationalism and the emergence of narrow Buddhistic ideals and the worsening of politics, the state coming under one country, one law, they're trying to bulldoze all these things. I am not in total agreement with that. Our Muslims must try to able to maintain the identity by retaining at least the semblance of these laws. So while I promote multiculturalism, I also wish to emphasize that our Muslim identity must be maintained at all costs, but not confrontationally, by accommodating with the majorities.
Tell me some of the people who have really shaped you.
Well, already I mentioned
the people you are grateful to.
Grandmother, my two uncles, Mr. Halaluddin and this. More importantly, I had very good teachers in my young days. Maligawat Denam School, there was a young man called Mr. Mukhtar Muhammad. He was a son of a Maulavi. My gosh, he is the one who taught me to leadership. He is the one who encouraged me to do reading. And he is the one who made me to organize my groups and have literary societies. And he personally took interest in my life, and he is the one who gave special coaching for the fifth standard scholarship exam, which I passed with flying colors. Then you come the next stage, I had to come to the university level. You see, I had a very good teacher called Professor Indrapala, who is now living in Sydney, in a place called K. Indrapala, who is a very well-known scholar of Tamil, Japna Tamil. He did not have any kind of particular animosity towards any community. He personally promoted me, my study of history. And if not for Dr. Indrapala, Professor Indrapala, he was a former dean of the Jaffna University, who is currently living in Sydney. He wanted to see me as a historian. And he did everything possible. And he's still proud that he didn't. He says, out of all his students, I am the one who produced books and I made a name for myself. So I'm very grateful to Professor Indrapala. Then my former head of department, K.W. Karl Gunawardena, was a former vice chancellor of Vidyalakara University, and he's also a very well known historian. And of course, in Brunei, I had a full support from this minister called Payne Abdul Aziz bin Umar, former education minister and my vice chancellor. He is the one, he promoted my research into Brunei history. I cannot forget this gentleman. And of course, I'm very grateful to the support this Haji Hassan al-Bolkiah gave me to pursue this matter. In honor of me, in my he gave me a gold medal. Called medal, I don't think it's gold, it's a gold color medal in his 70th birthday or 62nd birthday. He invited some of us to his palace in his birthday and gave me a title, my medal. I want to show you the photograph of the medal. Can you see that?
Right. Nice.
So this
nice.
was in the palace of Bulgaria. So I'm quite grateful to all these people. I mean, there are so many people to mention, of course. But then when I talk about myself, these names automatically emerge. People who made difference in my life.
Yes.
Of course, my wife.
Yes.
She had been a big supporter and big supporter. Not only to this, she compiled my work and my thesis, and she used to be my editor. She used to be my proofreader, and she doesn't allow me to sleep. When I work, she put me up and nags me, and makes me to work.
Yeah, of course.
I'm happy about it. But all these people have done great contribution in life. I'm sorry if I mistaken. Sorry, I forgot other people at this stage of my life. But these are the big names I will mention. Thanks very much for asking that question.
What advice would you give to the younger people, younger generation?
Well, I will tell you these things. Today, we are living in a very nasty world. When I say nasty, in a competitive world. You see, man-eating man world. Meaning that unless you are on top of everything, you are nothing. Not that everybody can be brilliant, people. Whatever you do, you have to do perfectly. Whatever you do, think that you are the best in that. And don't waste too much of time in this social media. These days, I'm very sad to see people spending in all kinds of social media, like Instagram, WhatsApp, and all that most of the time. You see, some of the successful professors I know, like Professor Nicholas Starling, the great man, he never reads newspapers of the day. He will only read newspapers of yesterday. What I mean is, if you want to devote yourself to work, you have to do it. So everybody has to perfect their work. In Mahabharata, there is a thing called karma viran. When Lord Arjuna was trying to go on a chariot driven by Lord Krishna, and he has to fight against his own uncle, who taught him the art of archery. So he was doubting how to kill his own uncle. So the Lord Krishna telling, hey, come here, man. You do your duty. If you do your duty, you are successful. Now, what is your duty? You are trying not to kill your uncle because of filial affiliation. But this man, if you kill it today, the dharma means the greatest good will come to this my world. So that is why he gave Arjuna, and he read this thing called Bhagavad Gita. In that, he taught one thing called Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means you do your duty. Don't care about what happens around you. You will reach somewhere. So this Karma Yoga preached to Arjuna, despite it's a very unpalatable thing he was trying to do, but he did it, and the Mahabharata, they won. The righteous people won. Similarly, I'm telling to my people, my young men, please be the best. Be diligent. Be competitive. And do your duty. The Karma Yoga. Nothing will beat you. Whether you are successful, failure is a different matter. But you have to succeed. Don't worry about failure. You will go forward. Third, I don't know, being a Muslim, I believe that we have to develop scientific mindedness too much. Meaning, now see what happened in the Western world. They are very rational and scientific minded. And they are always inventive, knowledge creating. Whereas part of our Muslim generations are ruined of studying only about the past, about the sayings. Everything they refer to what other person says. In such and such book, in such and such person said. They are not thinking for themselves. Okay, the Muslim spiritualists will come to disagree with me. What I'm trying to tell you is, the reason why the Western world, scientific world progressed is they taught their children to think, not to take the knowledge as it is. You have to revise the knowledge, build the knowledge. So that characteristic must come in our generation if the Muslim world has to progress. Not to all the time depend on the traditions. Refer to the traditions. So you have to be inventive. Don't feel shy to be a little bit of worldly. Not to be spiritual. Don't be misled by people. Oh, Allah will look after. You will go to heaven. Very important is spiritual education to you. Okay, it's good. But at the same time, we are living in the Western world. We have to make our own contribution. So, be scientific-minded, be inventive, be good, constructive people to your own community. That is the Muslims. Make them great. Not like Trump used to say, make America great. Please, my dear young men, make Muslims great, which is possible if you are going to follow up the modern way of knowledge acquisition and knowledge building.
Now, is there anything else that you like to mention? We have to finish.
I'm thankful to you, and I'm appreciating the initiative you have taken to record the impressions of very ordinary people like us. You are not going behind the big guns. Like
you are not ordinary.
No. Compared to the big people in this country, the ministers and all, I'm nothing. I'm just an academic like anybody else. There are hundreds of people like me. But that's a different matter. But what you are doing is a great thing. One day, after all I'm dead and gone, like the famous Utah people, your digital memories would be of some use for some people. But please keep up. Look for more ordinary people or more important people and make your recording. And please share with us whatever you do. We will enjoy. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for spending your valuable time for your cause. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hussainmiya, for your time. I think that is a good point to finish. Thank you for talking to us. Assalamu alaikum.